Hello and welcome to a new video. In today's video, what we are gonna do is to look at my top picks of Neocolor colors to use wet, so to use with the watercolor effect. If you're new to this channel and new to Neocolor are wax pastels by Caran d'Ache, and they come in two versions, Neocolor I, which is water resistant, and Neocolor II, which is water soluble. And today we're looking at some colors of Neocolor II that I selected to use wet. So therefore you see brush, water. How are we going to proceed? I'm showing you first which features I'm going after when selecting those Neocolor colors that are, in my opinion, most suitable for watercolor. And then I will show you my selection. I will also show you some colors that in my opinion are suitable, but I decided not to include in my smaller selection. There will be a follow-up video about a mixing chart with some of the colors that I selected. And this is for you to see how the mixing, the pairwise mixing behaves, and also to see all the possibilities that are open with such a few selection of Neocolor if you use them wet. We start first with a comparison of what, in my opinion, is a good Neocolor for using with water and what is less good. And I want to make a comparison with the greens. So here, for your reference, we are using 4 greens, and I'm gonna show you a bit how they compare and which one I would choose. So we have phthalo green, we have emerald green, 210, we have moss green, 225, and olive green, 245. So I do a little swatch and then I activate them. And I start here with the light olive. When we activate it, you see it's not giving a lot of color. It's quite pale and yeah, not very satisfactory in my opinion. Then moss green, also when I activate, okay, it gives some color, but you see it's still more kind of gouache, not very transparent and not very intense. Then 210, it activates nicely. But in my opinion it's still not optimal. And when I activate 710, you see how, bam, it dissolves much easier. The color is much more intense, very transparent in my opinion, very intense, very nice. So among these 4 colors, my choice would go to the 710. So this is one of the criteria that I use to make this selection. Colors that activate very nicely with an intense hue, and yeah, quite coloring, transparent. The other important thing to look after is light fastness as well, because you see with watercolor we have a much thinner layer of color on the paper, so the light fastness is much more important in my opinion compared to when you have, you know, like a very thick layer, then you have much more pigment. And what I want also to avoid in the colors that I use for watercolor is this, that they make some kind of a paste and when activated and they become a bit muddy. In my opinion, this happens for colors where you have not only a lot of pigment but also a lot of filler. And in my opinion, when activating the colors with water, this is a disadvantage, because in the pastel form, to somehow to have lighter colors, you need to add white. But in watercolor form, to have lighter colors, it's enough to dilute them with water. Therefore, yeah, that's what I'm going after. If you still want to have this kind of pastel colors, then I advise you to intentionally mix these more transparent colors that activate well with white. So we're gonna try now white plus a little bit of phthalo green, and you see you have your pastel color, which is then not very transparent. You can go over other colors. It's quite opaque. Yeah, but here you did this with intention. So, and what you can do here also is to first mix transparent colors with each other and then add white at the end, so that you get a pastel color with the desired hue. Having said that, okay, we go to the palette that I selected. I have to say also, I will show you there are other colors that I find appropriate or like well suited to use wet, but I didn't include in this smaller selection because either you can mix them, in my opinion, with other colors, or they had lower light fastness. So I decided to go for the ones with the higher light fastness. And we start. I can show you first the first part of the selection. So we have Canary yellow, golden yellow, golden ochre, Toledo brown, flame red, scarlet, purple, royal blue, Prussian blue, and then we have 4 more that I will show you afterwards. When you're using Neocolor II wet, in my opinion, it's important not to add too much color, because you have this leaves, the pastel leaves quite some amount of material on the paper, and if you add too much, it's difficult then to activate everything, so you have really to work it. That's my experience, at least. So now we activate Canary yellow. You see it's very intense yellow, activates beautifully, and it's a bit cooler yellow if compared to golden yellow. Then golden yellow, it's a bit a warmer yellow, going more towards orange. And you see also this very intense, quite transparent, it activates very nicely. Then golden ochre, a bit less intense, but I find it's the most transparent of the earth colors, so between ochre, raw sienna and so on, and it has also higher light fastness than ochre. Ochre has 1 star, this has 2 stars. So Canary yellow is 3 stars, golden yellow 2 stars, golden ochre also 2 stars. Then Toledo brown 2 stars as well. And let's activate Toledo brown. Toledo brown for me was a surprise. Look how nicely, how beautifully, such a transparent color, intense. The reddish, orangish character comes out, quite dark, very interesting. For me, this was one of the biggest surprises that I got when screening a bit the colors for today's video. Then we have flame red, also has 2 stars, also quite intense, maybe a bit less transparent than vermilion. Vermilion I also think is a color that can be used nicely with watercolor, for creating nice watercolor effects. The reason why I decided not to include it is it's like in between Scarlet and flame red, so in my opinion you can mix it up with the two. So I decided not to include it in the selection. Then we have Scarlet with 3 stars, so excellent light fastness. Look, very intense, activates very quickly, maybe not as transparent as other colors, for example as Toledo brown, but still very nice color I find. Then we have purple, which has 3 stars as well, and this is super nice, very transparent, look, quite intense, super nice. Here I also find Carmine to be a it's very transparent color in between scarlet and purple. I decided not to include it, because I think you can mix it by using scarlet and purple, and it has only 1 star in light fastness. Then royal blue, not super transparent, but I find it very intense, look, and this is a bit a warmer blue, and it has 2 stars in light fastness. Then we look at Prussian blue. This is very intense, wonderful color, look how it activates, beautiful, very transparent, very intense, a bit cooler blue, very good for mixing, I think, look. And this has 3 stars for light fastness. We have 4 more colors to go. Cobalt blue, it's an imitation of cobalt blue. I think the pigment here is rather phthalo blue. This comes with 3 stars. Then we have what I showed you before, phthalo green, also 3 stars. Then we have charcoal gray, 3 stars, and then white, if you want to mix pastel colors, also 3 stars. Let's do some small swatches. And now we activate them. Look, cobalt blue, it's extremely intense. Not super transparent, but I find the intensity in this color to be much stronger than the intensity of other colors that also in my opinion are well suitable for watercolor, which are sapphire blue and the blue, so 150 and 260. I decided not to include them because they're a bit duplicated if you have cobalt blue. They're very intense, but I found out in my trials, here you can see I swatched them, 150, 260, 149. I find the cobalt blue to be much more intense, it's this one here. Therefore I decided to have this, and also because it's closer to, I think, a bit closer to a primary blue, so to a cyan. Then phthalo green, it's what I showed you before, look. Yeah, no comment here, it's very good, very transparent, very intense. Then white, it's opaque, and as I told you, you can use it to mix pastel colors that are a bit more gouache-like or more opaque. And then charcoal gray. Why did I decide to include charcoal gray and not black? So they're very similar dry, these 2 colors, but I can show you, this is black. When you activate them, they're very different. So if you activate black, it's very coloring, very intense. And honestly, I'm a bit afraid that in the mixes this takes over and dominates the mix a bit too much. And therefore, I decided to include charcoal gray, which is a bit less intense when activated with water. So dry, they're very similar, but when you activate this, charcoal gray is a bit less intense, and I find it's more suitable than to mix with other colors because you have a bit better control. Then there are 2 more colors that I also find very suitable to be activated with water according to the criteria that I told you, which are 180 malachite green and greenish blue 190. But these two I think you can approximate them by mixing phthalo green with either Prussian blue or cobalt blue. So yeah, then there is one more color that I wanted to talk about, which is this lemon yellow. If you compare lemon yellow to canary yellow, lemon yellow is a bit cooler, and I think it's more this kind of primary yellow. Canary yellow is quite close, but it's a bit warmer. So I think if you are after a primary yellow, the lemon yellow is nicer. The problem is with the lemon yellow that, and now I can show you, it's not transparent. It's you see, it's quite opaque, and I think when you mix it with other colors, then this is not optimal. You see, it makes a bit also some kind of little paste, and it's not as transparent as the canary yellow. So here I feel there is a bit a gap in the color range to have a primary yellow which is very transparent, so a version of the canary yellow which is cooler. But nevertheless, if you need more cooler yellow, yeah, then you can still use this and try it out. That's all for today. This is my selection of colors. I will have a list in a post so that you can have it for your reference. Let me know if these, if you try them out, if these are also the colors that you use. I think to be able to use them wet so achieving a satisfactory result, you have to follow two let's say principles. One is not putting too much color on the paper if you think about activating it, and also using rather transparent colors. Therefore I chose these colors. Yeah, stay tuned for the next video where I will show you how these mix together and which variety of colors you can obtain. And if you have questions, you can leave them in the comment. You can share your experience in the comment. If there are colors that I didn't mention here, and you find, oh, they should absolutely be on a palette to use with water, leave them in the comment, let me know. And I hope you enjoyed this video and this will help you further on your creative journey. And I hope to see you soon in the next video.